Om is the bow, right? You have a mantra to chant. That's the bow. That's what's going to shoot you. The self is the arrow. The supreme person, Brahman, is the target. A sober person, right? A person that's got a clear thinking mind. A person whose mind is not, let's say, intoxicated or inebriated by pursuing material things, confused in that way. A sober person should make himself like an arrow, right? Aim for that, and aim for that target. So I'm just using this as what I feel is a very clear example of going to the original sources of yoga teachings, not to what any New Age speaker may be presenting, but going to the original sources and saying, look, yoga was always conceived of as a practice where there's a very clear goal, a very clear focus. One pursues it with determination, right? So in that sense, yoga is goal-oriented, but it's not materially goal-oriented.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from New York City's Upper West Side, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast, a daily spiritual podcast. We changed that a while ago. Sometimes a little tough to break out of that habit. A daily spiritual podcast. I'm your host today, Kaustubha, and I'm here with Mara. Good morning, Mara.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. And Raghunath what's he doing?
He's down in Florida. He's given a class at Palm Coast Yoga.
That's right.
This morning.
Coast. He's at Palm Coast Yoga today. Okay, so
Yeah.
he's busy. But today's our Q&A day. And so Mara and I will do Q&A together. And this is, I mentioned in the past that when I was in Rishikesh this past, what was it, February, March, there was this huge, really great 5-week festival every day that was headed up by Indradyumna Swami called the Kirtan Fest, Rishikesh Kirtan Fest. And every night they would feed, like some nights I think it broke 600 people. They'd feed over 600 people, but every night it was like close to that at least.
Wow.
Which means that there was over 600 people there every night. There might have been 700 people there every night or something like that. It was an incredible festival. They do it every year, so they'll do it again in the coming year. But every evening, I would give classes in the morning there, and then in the evening, I would kind of host a question and answer booth.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just answer questions for an hour and a half or so every night. There were chairs set up, and people could hang out. So one person that I met there was named Akshay. And on the last night, like Akshay said, I have a lot of questions still. I said, okay, well, write them down and send them into Wisdom of the Sages, and we'll take them on our Q&A days. So he wrote 81 questions.
And I think he sent more since the initial 81 also.
Yeah. And even in those 81 questions, some of them are like many questions within one.
Yeah.
So we've been answering some of Akshay's questions over the course of time, and we thought today we would, because tomorrow Raghunath and I will do Q&A also. So today I'll just take on just purely questions from Akshay.
All right.
But before we get there, do you have any announcements to make, Mara?
Well, I was just going to say that we do have our more Q&A day tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern time. And so if people have questions that they want to write in, they can go to the Sage community platform, go to the community chat, and then under the questions for the host tab, they can write down their question.
All right. That's what we got to do.
Yeah.
Okay, then that just brings us to today's questions, which are coming from Akshay.
All right. You ready for the first question?
I'm ready.
Should samadhi be the goal of a yogi? Isn't that like pursuing the fruits of a yogi's labor?
Okay.
Good question.
Good question, Akshay. Good question.
Yeah.
Well, the word samadhi, right? Sama means evenness or sameness. I assume the word same comes from sama. And dhi refers to one's meditation or one's thoughts. So samadhi or samadhi refers to it refers to an even mind in one form or another. I think generally when people hear the word samadhi, they think of a state of trance, which it certainly can be. Sometimes the word is used in a looser sense, wherein it's referring to a mind that is focused on its goal and stays there and is not distracted from its goal.
Mm.
And so, yeah, samadhi therefore is a goal of yoga, or you could say the goal of yoga. It's just different paths of yoga may have different ideas of what samadhi is or where it concludes. But all that being said, I think what Akshay is getting at here is in the second part of his question, where he asks, isn't that like pursuing the fruits of a yogi's labor? In other words, commonly, throughout the Bhagavad Gita, we find a contrast is being drawn between those who pursue the fruits of labor, which is a karmi, and a yogi, one who renounces the fruits of their labor.
Mm.
And so let's be more clear about exactly what that means, because you see, we throw around these terms and concepts, and when they're not well defined, sometimes we're saying something and we're not understanding exactly what it means. So Bhagavad Gita is going to draw a contrast, and other texts as well, between one who pursues the fruits of work, and we call this a karmi, right? Karma means work, and a karmi is one who's doing work, doing actions, doing activity within this world, knowing that the way the world works is that there are reactions for these actions. And someone who's following the Vedic path of karma, they're trying to maximize the good results. They're trying to act in such a way or work in such a way in this world that they will derive good results, meaning materially good results, prosperity, right? Health, reputation, good reputation, you know. And I always use, examples like this, like, if you want rain for your crops, so that, and if you want wealth, if you want to be born in your next life in a position where you're better situated to enjoy the pleasures of this world, then you could pursue doing good works in this world, and with the idea of enjoying the fruits, the results of those works.
Mm-hmm.
So that's mapped out how one can do that and how that can make one help one evolve. But then there are other texts within the broader yoga literature that are going to say, you know what? There's a lot more to life than that. There's higher pursuits to pursue. And that's what yoga is all about. Yoga means that you can get control of your mind and the desires within your mind, purify them, refocus that mind, and bring the focus of the mind on the nature of the self, that the happiness that you're looking for through the external fruits of your activities, the happiness that you derive there, the pleasures that you derive there, is very paltry, is very insignificant. You are worthy of so much more. So, and as long as you're distracted by trying to enjoy these external fruits, you will never truly experience your high potential, experiencing your true spiritual nature. So practice yoga, focus on that, give up pursuing the fruits of your labors. Okay, so that contrast is drawn. Now, Akshay's question is, should samadhi be the goal of a yogi? Isn't that like pursuing the fruits of a yogi's labor? It's not. And I'll explain why. Because both the karmi, the person that's focused on working hard for a result, and the yogi, they're focused, right? A yogi practically by definition, yoga means focus, having that mind very focused, and having it focused on a clear goal. But the difference is the goal of the yogi is different from the goal of the karmi. The karmi is trying to enjoy the external things of this world, and the yogi is trying to achieve another goal, a spiritual goal, a goal of self-realization. And to achieve that goal is not an easy thing, and it requires determination, and it requires focus, right? It requires effort. All of these things. So it's not that focus and effort and determination are bad, but the point is that you derive, you miss the point if you take your focus and your effort and your energy and your focus and you place it in temporary material results. The yogi is focused on achieving a spiritual goal. And sometimes I think we blend in New Age ideas. You know, a yogi or a speaker can be saying how we need to let go of pursuing the fruits of work, let go of these things. And we may begin to mix that up. And if people aren't well acquainted with these teachings and the traditions, we can kind of not understand the full picture. And I think New Age kind of thinking grows out of Vedanta, grows out of Vedic teachings, but without really understanding the full picture. So then you get ideas like you should have no focus or no goal in life. It's all about the journey. Sometimes you get that, right? It's all about the journey. No, 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 no. In yoga, the idea is the journey takes you to a goal. And yoga means focus on the goal. I want to share one example. I've shared this on the show before, but we're going to like one of the most oldest teachings of yoga in the Upanishads, the Mandukya Upanishad. And these are just some verses. It's a very famous analogy that's used in the Upanishads, which has to do with, well, I'll read it. I'm going to read Mandukya Upanishad 222 through 224. And think about this and consider how it is very goal-oriented, right? How yoga it has a very clear goal. It has a sadhana, which is a practice, and a sadhya, which means the goal of the practice, right? These work together. So Mandukya Upanishad states, the Supreme Person is effulgent. He is smaller than the smallest. All the worlds and all the living entities rest within him. Okay, so this is like many Vedic texts that speak about the nature of the Supreme. Here we're hearing the Supreme Person is smaller than the smallest, and yet everything exists, rests within him, right? So he has these apparently self-contradictory attributes. He is the imperishable Brahman effulgence. He is life, words, and mind. He is the truth. O gentle one, know that he is immortal and full of nectar. Okay, so here's this person, unlimited, entirely spiritually situated and therefore transcending the material laws of physics as we know them. How can something that's smaller than anything have everything within it? That happens in a spiritual realm beyond the laws of time and space that we experience here in this world. So you can know that person, you can connect with that person. He is immortal, he's dependable. That connection is a dependable one. He is full of nectar. By connecting with that supreme being, you taste the highest happiness and the highest pleasure beyond the material things. Okay, focus on that, connect with that, right? So the next verse, O gentle one, withdraw the senses from everything else. That's yoga, right? Pratyahara, you withdraw the senses. Withdraw the senses from all else. Take up the bow of the Upanishads, the bow like a bow and arrow. Place on it the sharp arrow of devotional service. Upasana is the word that's used here, which literally means like worship. And with a heart filled with love, with bhava, aim it at that immortal supreme, at that immortal supreme person. Om is the bow, right? You have a mantra to chant. That's the bow. That's what's going to shoot you. The self is the arrow. The supreme person, Brahman, is the target. A sober person, right? A person that's got a clear thinking mind. A person whose mind is not, let's say, intoxicated or inebriated by pursuing material things, confused in that way. A sober person should make himself like an arrow, right? Aim for that, and aim for that target. So I'm just using this as what I feel is a very clear example of going to the original sources of yoga teachings, not to what any New Age speaker may be presenting, but going to the original sources and saying, look, yoga was always conceived of as a practice where there's a very clear goal, a very clear focus. One pursues it with determination, right? So in that sense, yoga is goal-oriented, but it's not materially goal-oriented. It's not like the attached person of the material realm who wants to achieve materialistic goals, but it's a very it's a goal on an entirely another level, spiritual goal.
Mm.
All right.
All right, good answer.
Okay, you're back. I saw you.
Yeah, I froze for a little while.
Froze a little bit, but you're back. Okay.
Rainy. All right, you ready for the next question, Prabhu?
Yes.
Okay. This is a good one too.
Okay.
Is God to be feared or loved, or feared and loved?
Mm-hmm.
Can we even be angry with God, jealous of God, and express hatred towards God?
Good question.
Seems like if you're going to have a relationship with God, you're going to have emotions involved with it.
Yeah,
right?
no doubt. And there's, I think, in certain, I mean, even in the Vedic texts, maybe, but you get this, it does speak about fear of God. And I think in some of the Judeo-Christian texts, you hear about that. And I mean, and I think a lot of times they're presented that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, God is the judge, and if you're not careful, you end up in the eternal lake of fire and burning in hell and so on, which seems to be encouraging what they would, I assume they would call like a healthy fear of God.
Mm.
Krishna is not known that way, although he is feared by some, right? And it's really interesting. When you, sometimes I've been sharing, I may have shared it on the show recently. But it struck me because I was asked to speak at the Bhakti Center last Janmashtami, which is Krishna's birthday.
Mm.
And so I was trying, okay, what am I going to read? And I went to the 10th canto, something that will be coming up on soon. It can't be too far down the road within the next few chapters, I assume. And it talks about Krishna, who is, as we were just reading in the Upanishads, you know, everything exists within him. You know, he is the support of unlimited universes, etc.
Mm-hmm.
That unlimited supreme being, which right there, that could be a frightful thing, right? Anyone with such power can inspire fear. But look at Krishna and look at how he appears, because he's not interested in judging. Takes no interest in that. He's not interested in even like creation and destruction and things like this. Sometimes he'll outsource that or expand himself to take care of that in other forms, like as Vishnu or as the various devas. But Krishna himself, he has no interest in that. He's simply interested in what you call adventures or pastimes of love. Experiencing the taste of love is his only interest. And he's interested in experiencing that in a wide varieties of ways, right? He wants to experience love as two friends experience love, right? And within that, there's many different subtle varieties of friendship, the love of friendship. Sometimes a friend is a little older, and there's a certain that adds a certain nuance to it. Sometimes a friend is a little bit younger, and that adds a certain nuance to it. Sometimes a friend is like, you know, practically exactly your age. That has a unique nuance to it. Sometimes friends are coming from different social situations. That'll add different nuances to it, you know. And then everyone's got their own individuality.
Sometimes your friends steal your lunch, but keep away with it.
Friends do all kind of things. Certainly, there's an intimate friendship where actually friends insult each other and everything because they're so close, you know.
Yeah.
Or they take liberties that they wouldn't take in a friendship that's not quite so intimate. Sometimes the most intimate friendship appears to be like, oh, they don't get like Raghunath and me. so there's all kind of nuances in friendship, and then there's other types of love, the love that a parent, the love between a parent and a child, or between a child and a parent, you know, the love that you can say, like we can call it the love of a servant to a master, or you could say, like, in other words, the love of a subordinate to a superior, which can be found within, like, say, teacher-student dynamics and so on. There's a love there, a special kind of love. Krishna wants to feel it and experience it. Krishna finds a guru for himself, you know, and Krishna also is served by servants. You know, he approaches it from both sides because he wants to taste it in all its varieties. And then, of course, there's the love of a lover, right? The love of romantic love. And that has so many different varieties. There's within marriage, outside of marriage, extramarital. There's love where the lover is submissive, love where the lover is sassy, you know, less submissive. There's all different, and Krishna is called Akila Ras Amrita Murti. He wants to taste all those different varieties of love. But perhaps, you know, like, because we're speaking about God being feared, it made me think of this pastime that I discussed when I was asked to give that class. I was reading the Bhagavatam, and I was reading this pastime where Krishna and Balaram are little bitty babies, and their mothers Yashoda and Rohini are watching them play. And because it's a cowherd community, there's lots of cows running around, and therefore there's mud, you know. And so the cows are around, and the little baby Krishna and little baby Balaram are playing in the mud. And somehow just being in that mud is making them look all the more adorable, slipping around and getting covered in mud. And the mothers are sitting there with hearts full of love, right? They're not feeling any fear of God. Right. As a matter of fact, they have this very intimate relationship with God, but they don't even realize that Krishna and Balaram are God, right? Because that would interfere with this. If they realize that, then they wouldn't feel this motherly love with the same type of intimacy. So we were talking about yoga maya yesterday. This is a type of illusion, or you could say forgetfulness of who this person is. You know, the truth is that that little baby crawling around in the mud is the supreme being from which everything emanates. But she's not thinking that. She's thinking, that's my boy. And she just, and she's so her and Rohini are feeling this deep, deep love in their hearts, watching these boys play. And then the boys see another woman walking by, and they think it's their mother. And Krishna goes and pulls on her sari, like tugs on the sari, like, Mama. And when the woman turns around, it's not their mother. It's another perfectly loving person from the neighborhood, right, from the cowherd community. But when Krishna sees, because he's so young, right, and it's such an infant practically, that when he sees it's not his mother, it's almost like he's confused. Who is that? It's not mommy. And he becomes frightened, turns around, and then sees his mother and starts crawling back, like, Mommy, Mommy. Now, in that moment, Krishna is experiencing what it feels like for a child with a heart full of love for its mother to take shelter of that mother's, to take shelter of that mother, right? To be cared for by that mother. I need your care. There's a sense of love that's experienced when it's like, I need your care now, I need you. And the mother's thinking, like, I'm here to care for you, you know, and that's another variety. So in order to experience love, that all-powerful being who one might fear becomes the most vulnerable, infant, frightened for the most insignificant of reasons. That's Krishna. There's no need to fear him. He's only interested in love. But people do fear him, and people also feel jealousy or anger towards him or hatred. And there's an interesting idea that's presented in the Bhagavatam that we've been discussing this on the show recently. You know, there's a verse in Bhagavad Gita. It must be 10. must be 10, 12 maybe, where Arjuna says, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, that you are Pavitram Paramam, you are the supreme purifier. Krishna is the supreme purifier. Just by being in contact with him, just by bringing your mind to him, anything that comes in contact with him becomes pure, becomes purified. It's almost like fire purifies things. You know, the sun purifies things. Krishna is the ultimate purifier. What's that verse? You know, when one remembers the lotus side. Om apavitra pavitro va sarvavastang gatopi va yat smaret. By remembering yat smaret pundarikaksha, the lotus side Krishna. Abhyanta abhyabhya yantara suchihi. One becomes suchi, one becomes pure. That whether you're in a pure circumstance or an impure circumstance, simply by remembering, simply by bringing your mind to the lotus side, beautiful Krishna, you become pure. Right? And so there's a question that's placed. Well, here's the idea. Whenever you think of Krishna, whenever your mind goes to Krishna, your mind becomes purified. What if my mind goes to Krishna with jealousy? What if my mind goes to Krishna with fear? What if my mind goes to Krishna with anger or even hatred? You still become purified. That's the idea. And so there's this question that's placed to Narada. Actually, it's placed to Shukadeva Goswami by Maharaj Pariksit. When he hears about this, he hears about how when Shishupala was killed, Shishupala was a straight up demoniac, evil ruler. When you want to think of like evil rulers, you can put him way up there near the top of the list, Shishupala. Just wicked man, just really horrible. And from his childhood, he hated Krishna, really hated Krishna. And when Yudhishthira became king, Arjuna's elder brother, they held a big ceremony or ritual called the Rajasuya Yagna. Right? It's a big ritual where the king, in order to perform the idea is if you can perform this ritual, you bring good fortune to the kingdom, even to the empire, right? To the broad empire. And Yudhishthira was more than a king; he was like the emperor. And so, in order to do this, you need to be an emperor, and that means that all the other kings have to accept your leadership. And Yudhishthira managed to accomplish that by sending his 4 brothers in the 4 different directions. And essentially, you establish yourself as the ruler. You see if they accept it. If they don't, then you deal with the conflict. When you establish yourself as ruler, you tax that kingdom. But you know, all of this was being done with it wasn't being, when we think of like imperialism or something like that, it wasn't like that. It was trying to, when there's no one in control, the idea is get control to protect people, and that's what Yudhishthira was out to do. So he managed to accomplish all of this. And he was going to now perform this ceremony where all the kings of the world are invited. And at the beginning of that ceremony, to bring auspiciousness into the ceremony, the way that it's performed is at the beginning you honor one particularly worthy member of that assembly. So Yudhishthira had the freedom to choose, who will we honor here? And there are many people there that were worthy of honor. Powerful kings, other types of sages. Yudhishthira said, we will honor Krishna, right? And Krishna's placed on a throne, and people are honoring him, you know, speaking of him and glorifying him. And Shishupala just couldn't bear it. He just hated Krishna so much. Even when he hated Krishna so much that even when they were very young, Shishupala's mother became worried that my son hates you so much, and I'm worried that you'll kill him someday. And from his real, I don't know what age they were, but it was very, very young. Krishna said, I will tolerate 100 insults from him, right? And it's okay, thank you, because he would never be so, so, you know,
Surely he wouldn't insult you over 100
yeah, I mean,
times.
nobody's going to sit there and 100 times insult him. But at that Rajasuya Yagna, as Krishna was being glorified, Shishupala just couldn't take it and he spoke up. And he's just started laying it. How is this? How has Krishna been chosen as the person to honor here? This is ridiculous. Look at him. He's not even a real king. He's some cowherd person. He's this, he's that. He just went on and on. And he was insulting him 1 time, 10 times, 20 times, 50 times, 90 times. He kept going.
Oh.
And it's described how the Pandavas were sitting there just like they love Krishna so much. And when they're hearing all these insults, like Krishna was saying, don't react. Don't react. Just kind of giving that, like that hand signal, And but it's saying I forget who it was, but it was one of the Pandavas. Like it said, their hand was like right on their sword, and it's just like twitching. They're like
Yeah.
twitchy trigger finger. you know? And then finally Shishupala insulted Krishna 101 times. Across the line.
Yep.
And then Krishna effortlessly just holds his finger up, and on that finger appeared the Sudarshana chakra, this mystical, powerful, spiritual weapon of a flaming disc. And he just goes, whoosh, and it with blinding speed, just whoosh, the head of Shishupala falls to the
Rolled
ground.
right off.
Yeah. And now someone say, well, why is Krishna like that? He can't, if he's a yogi, shouldn't he be able to tolerate insults? And, no, you don't understand. Krishna is that ultimate purifier. Krishna he only brings auspiciousness. I think Raghunath said something like that the other day, didn't he? Say maybe dying would be a good thing, right?
Yeah.
And for Shishupal, dying was the best thing that could have happened for him, dying in the presence of Krishna. Because when his head got cut off, everybody there witnessed. They could see some light, the spark of the soul, transferred from the now dead body of Shishupal into the body of Krishna.
Mhm.
So he attained a type of liberation, a type of moksha, a type of peace. You could say a type of bliss. Even Shishupal, who hated Krishna, but the point was he hated Krishna with such focus. He
He never
hated.
forgot him, probably.
He was thinking of him all the
all the
time.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that type of bringing the mind to Krishna all the time, it actually was purifying for him. And he achieved the goal that many yogis are trying to achieve. Okay. So I want to read a bit from the 7th canto where this is discussed. And I believe this is Narada describing this to Yudhishthira, because Yudhishthira had the same question that Maharaj Pariksit had. What was going on there? Why did this demon achieve this goal that the yogis are aiming for? And so this is Yudhishthira speaking. He said, well, he expressed that one way or another, one should bring their mind to Krishna. And he said, therefore, by enmity, by like hatred, or by, the word there is vaira anubandha. And then he says, or by nirvaira. You could say the opposite, or like love or devotion, right? So therefore, by enmity, by devotion, by fear, bhaya, by affection, sneha. You know this word sneha? You've heard that before, Mara?
Yeah, I've heard it.
Sneha. It means affection. It also means oil. But there's something about the two, right? Like there's something in oil. The oil can be fragrant and smooth and shiny, and there's something. Somehow these two words, it kind of or you could say like oil is that inner essence, that beautiful essence that's within something. Like we can get oil out of sandalwood, or we can get oil out of an olive. It's that. In one sense, the oil is the nicest essence within that thing.
Right.
And so sneha affection or love, you know. So whether by enmity, by devotion, by fear, by affection, by kama, with lusty desire. Sometimes one's mind goes to God with a lusty desire. By all of these or any of them, if a conditioned soul somehow or other concentrates their mind on Krishna, the result is the same. For the Lord, the result is the same. For the Lord, because of his blissful position, is never affected by enmity or friendship. In other words, in other words, he's not like us. We identify with the body and the mind, and if they become insulted, we feel insulted. But because he doesn't have that abhiman is the word that's used here, that false sense of identification, even though he's being insulted, even 99, even 100 times, it wasn't because he felt insulted. It wasn't because he has a fragile ego. It was that he actually became merciful at that point and said, okay, now I'll liberate you. And so then he goes on, if the conditioned soul somehow or other think of Krishna, who is Satchidananda Vigraha, full of a form full of eternity, knowledge, and bliss, they will become free of their papam, of all of their bad karma, of all of their sinful reactions. And then it says, Tasmat kenapyupayena mana Krishna visheshayat. My dear king, one has to fix their mind on Krishna by any means, one way or another. Okay, so the question was, is God to be feared or loved? Or feared and loved? Can we even be angry with God, jealous of God, or express hatred towards God? People do, all the time. There's a lot of people that are full of a heart with all kind of animosity towards a God. They'll deny God's existence because they're just so averse to it, that there be some being with an ontological superiority that I am dependent on. It can be a very uncomfortable idea. So people can have all those feelings. Here it's saying Krishna, you don't understand who Krishna is. Even if you're insulting him, by bringing your mind to him, you benefit. But that being said, all that being said, that's not necessary. That kind of focus on Krishna is not necessarily bhakti. Bhakti is something else. Bhakti means love. Bhakti means devotion. That is by far a superior way to bring one's mind to Krishna. And that's addressed, because when Rupa Goswami is defining bhakti in his very important text at the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he early on in the text, he gives a type of definition for bhakti. It's a very important verse. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavritam anukulyena Krishna anu shilanam bhaktir uttama. That uttama bhakti, pure bhakti, the high level bhakti, develops, for it to develop, one must be devoid of jnana and karma, the desires for the things of this world, or even the desire for liberation. It must be free of them. But it also must be anukulyena. It must be with a favorable mood, right? Not like Shishupala, who he was concentrating on Krishna all the time, but not in a favorable way, not in a loving way. Bhakti means it's in a favorable way. When first class devotional service or bhakti develops, one must be devoid of all material desires and fruitive action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. That's love. When you actually love someone, you're thinking of them, but in a favorable way. And you're thinking of them in a way where you want to please them. That's love. And so that's bhakti. So it is possible to fear God. It is possible to be angry with God. It is possible to be jealous of God. It's even possible to hate God. And the crazy thing is that even if your mind is focused on him, you benefit. But that's not the interest of the bhakti yogis. The bhakti yogis want to approach Krishna in a favorable mood. They want to bring their mind to Krishna with love. And that's the practice of bhakti. Okay.
Should we do the next question? This also sort of is a continuation.
Okay.
All right. Akshay writes, Lord Krishna says, I am the enjoyer of all the fruits. Surrender everything to me. Be a servant of Lord Krishna. Does that mean Lord Krishna is bossy? Should one fear him and love him at the same time? Isn't God himself egoless, or should God have an ego?
Okay, isn't God himself supposed to be egoless, or should God have an ego? So there's a few important things to discuss here. Why don't we go ahead and the one is when Krishna is saying things like this in Bhagavad Gita, surrender to everything to me, become my servant, worship me. What's with that, right? Is he some egomaniac or something like that? Does he feel he needs to be worshipped? So that's one topic we need to discuss. And then the other topic is about God and ego. Isn't God himself supposed to be egoless? Well, what do we mean by ego here? In one sense, ego simply means the conception of oneself. But there's a term ahankara, or a term abhiman. These are different terms that in Sanskrit refer to the false conception of the self. The conception of the self misapplied to the body or the mind, we could call abhimana, or we could call that ahankara. Ahankara literally means the misconception of oneself as the doer, right? The misconception of oneself as being independent of the supreme controller, like that. We could call that ahankara. Krishna is free from abhiman, and Krishna is free of ahankara. He has no false conception of the self. He has no idea of the self tied to a material body or material mind. So he has a conception of the self, but he has no conception of the self in the way that is flawed, the flawed way that we have in this material world. Krishna is not moving around in a material body, working through a material mind. We are. Our bodies are temporary vehicles. Our minds are constantly changing programming within a computer. Our thoughts our mind is that computer, and our thoughts are the constantly changing programming. It's in that realm when we if I identify as this body and this mind, when someone insults my body, I feel insulted. Krishna is way beyond that. And so out of insecurity, sometimes we become bossy. We try to see ourselves as the controller or the doer. And we try to manipulate things, circumstances, and people to reinforce our false conception of the self, and to try to enjoy that false conception of the self. So if that's what you mean by ego, then yes, Krishna is free of ego, right? He doesn't have any of that. He's completely self-satisfied. He's free of those kind of frailties or faults that materialistic people have. Entirely, right? Entirely. So then why is he bossing people around, right? Why is he saying, surrender everything to me, become my servant, worship me? Now let's step back and try to understand, could there be a circumstance in which one being that is more powerful than another being turns to that less powerful being and says, I can help you if you simply accept my help, right? I can protect you. I can provide for you if you would simply accept it. In a sense, that's what Krishna is saying, right? He's saying, just turn to me. You're worshiping this and worshiping. When you go to work, in a sense, you're making an offering of yourself to a superior that provides for you, right? You go to work and you say, here I am giving my time, my energy, my efforts, my mind, my words. I'm giving them to, Google, or, to Pepsi Cola, or to Ford Motors, or to the shop owner, or to, we're giving them to a superior. What do you mean superior? Yeah, well, they've got more money than you, right? And you're saying, I need some of what you have, so I'm willing to worship. I'm willing to make an offering of my body, my mind, my time, my words, etc., to you, so that you will provide some care for me. You will provide something for me. Krishna is saying, worship me, right? Make your offerings to me. I can provide for you so much better. I can provide for you not the temporary results that you get from surrendering to another, but I'll provide you eternal results that are infused with the deepest emotional feelings of love if you simply turn to me, right? If you simply turn to me. Now that's the confidential teachings of Vedanta. That's beyond the just like let go of material things, be detached from the fruits of your work, let go of false conceptions of the self. All of that is conventional Vedanta. But then there's this very confidential side where the Vedanta Krit Vedavit, that person who is the goal of Vedanta and the knower of Vedanta, Krishna, says, I'm behind all of this. And if you simply turn to me, we'll connect in such a way that this love will arise in your heart. And that love that you'll have for me and your understanding of me, when you have that, you know everything and you experience the deepest, most satisfying Atma Supersiddhi, complete satisfaction of the self. But you need to turn to me to do that. And if you don't, you won't experience that and you'll suffer. So Krishna will say to Arjuna, I'm going to share with you this confidential knowledge now. And the reason that I'm going to share this with you is that you'll be able to understand it. Why? Because you're anusuyave, because you have no envy for me. So when you hear me say things like aham sarvasya prabhavo, matta sarvam prabhavo, everything emanates from me, the wise who know this worship me with love, you won't say, why are you being so bossy? Why you and not me? Why, no, he's anusuyave. He doesn't have those hang-ups. Sometimes a parent wants to just, with a heart full of nothing but love, wants to care for and provide for a child who has left their shelter. And the parent is this, just turn back to me, just come back to me. I can provide everything for you. When the parent says, I can provide everything for you, that's not being bossy, and it's not out of ego, it's out of love that they're saying it. And when they say that, don't surrender to another, turn to me, it's because I'm the one that has pure love for you. The others don't have that in the way that I do, So turn to me. Oh, wait, I need you, you're telling me that I need you and I can't exist on my own, But look, you're suffering. I'm here to relieve that. So this is Krishna when he's saying surrender everything to me. Surrender your body, surrender your mind, surrender your heart, surrender your time. Make your entire life an offering to me. We're making our life an offering to one object or another, right? Krishna's saying that all of them will let you down eventually in one way or another. I'm here for you. I will, if you simply take that worship that you're focusing in a million different places and focus it on me, then you will be so much better off, and you will feel it will have been placed in the right place. It's just kind of like, if you're watering a plant but you're watering the leaves and not the root, you're doing it wrong. And he's saying you can do it right, and you just have to turn back to me. When Krishna says that, he can say that like no one else can say that, because he is the ultimate shelter. He is the Parabrahman. You are the supreme, the supreme spiritual source of everything. Param Dhamma. You are the ultimate destination, the ultimate abode. Pavitram Paramam Bhavam. You're the supreme pure. Everything is there in him. So when he's saying this, he's saying this is the most confidential, the Parama Guyam, the most secret, highest confidential part of Vedanta, but you won't be able to hear it unless the heart is free from envy. If that heart becomes free from envy, then we turn to Krishna, we reconnect without envy, without anger, without fear, in love, and then we experience the deepest shelter. So Krishna's not bossy, he's just loving. That's all it is.
It's a good explanation.
May we stop here?
Sure, as you like.
Okay. But we will be back tomorrow.
With more questions.
With more questions and with Raghunath.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, looking forward to that. Looking forward to that. Thank you everyone for joining us here today. Oh, there you see now I echo.
Oh no,
turn
I
the
stopped
music.
it. I stopped it.
Okay.
Sorry, it took me a minute to get the music up.
Okay. Yeah, cue up the music. I don't hear any music. There now I do.
Now I do.
But now I hear the echo.
Now I hear the echo.
The echo.
Echo.
We gotta figure this one out.
I don't know.
We struggle with all kind of technical difficulties here. But I'll just end here saying thank you, everyone. And it's a beautiful day for a beautiful day. No echo. You got it.
There we go. I got it.
In any case, now that I've got that
Now that
momentum
it's
going,
over.
yeah, now that I got the momentum going. It's a beautiful day for a beautiful day, everyone. Let the magic flow. We'll see you tomorrow. Mwah.